Hey, thanks for being a part of the photography team, and thanks for helping us capture the amazing stories that are happening here at Burn Hickory. I want you to feel that you have the ability to use your creativity to share the experiences and bring literal light to the things that God is doing among us here. The images that we're able to create belong to us, belong to the church as a collective, and it's a really powerful tool to help others see the benefits of being a part of Burn Hickory. Our philosophy of photography is to capture the experience as it happens. We want to document instead of stage. We want to show people experiencing and participating in worship together, and we want the community to see people showing and receiving God's love as well as being an example of hope. We use some really nice gear, and I want to take a few minutes to go over and familiarize you with the Canon 5D if you aren't already. Hey, what's great about these cameras is that they're able to capture really beautiful and natural images, and they're really rugged. We've got two of them, one with a wide-angle zoom lens, the 24-70L, and the other one with the telephoto lens, the 70-200. We've also got this really cool 2x extender, so it essentially turns this lens into a 140-400. This is fantastic so that you can stay really incognito when you're snapping photos. So I want to spend a few minutes now specifically talking about capturing worship shots in either the upper or the lower auditorium. This can be kind of a challenge because of the ambient light, the darkness in the room, the brightness of the theatrical lights on the stage. So we want to put these cameras in full manual mode. The reason being is that there isn't a lot of ambient light during worship. So these cameras will try to average the light and the dark areas of the image, and it's going to expose based on averaging these readings. This will cause the light areas of your photos to probably be overexposed. The camera will also compensate by slowing the shutter speed down to allow more light to come in. Sounds great, but if your subject is moving, they're going to be blurry. So look at this photo shot on auto. Carrie's face is blown out because the camera is exposing for the shadows that are on the wall behind him. And in this photo, not only is Emma practically unrecognizable, the slow shutter speed causes her hand to be blurry. So we want to take this shot from this to this. We don't want it to look like that. We're shooting for this. Hey, they're both properly exposed and they're crisp. So here is how we do it. With full frame cameras, we could take advantage of really shallow depth of field. So with these L lenses, most of the time, we're shooting wide open. That means we're at 2.8 on both of these lenses, unless you get that 2x extender on, which causes your lens to stop down at a maximum of 5.6. So the narrow depth of field looks wonderful. Person's nice and crisp, and just right behind it, things out of focus and they look very dreamy. It's such a cool look, but it also means that your focus can be kind of tough to nail. Hey, but don't worry, these 5Ds have dual pixel autofocus and it is extremely accurate and it works really well. It's most accurate in the very center of that lens, which is why I suggest using back focus. When the camera is in shutter locked focus, the camera will try to grab a focus every time you push the shutter down. Using back focus allows you to put your subject in the center of the lens, grab a sharp focus, then you can recompose the frame and shoot as many images as you want before re-engaging the autofocus. This allows you to creatively compose images any way that you like and not lose that crisp, sharp focus. We have plenty of server space, so don't feel that you've got to shoot sparingly. Usually with an action shot in a worship set, you're going to want to capture 5 to 10 images in a row. The reason why is because you might have a perfectly composed shot. You got beautiful light, you've got the framing set right, it's a cool looking shot, but the singer has pulled an awkward face because they're in the middle of belting out a note. This is why you capture 10 in a row. I guarantee you at least one of them is going to look right with everybody in the shot not looking weird. So I personally, on a Sunday morning, will shoot about 1,800 photos. And if I get 20 of them that are beautiful, I consider it a win, okay? So you're probably gonna do way better than me. All right, so with the aperture wide open, let's look at shutter speed. So we want to avoid that blurry motion like we saw in Emma's photo. So we need to stay in the 1/60th of a second to the 1/200th, 1/300th of a second range. So you may want to stop down to 1/60th if you've got one of those projectors in the background of your image. The video being displayed on it is 1080/60, so you won't get any of those weird images or crazy looking colors. It'll look like it does in real life. But the sweet spot for shooting really cool action photos of worship is going to be at about 1/125th of a second. So this brings us to the final part of the trilogy, ISO. So you might be concerned when I tell you that these cameras will shoot well above 6400, all the way up to like 256,000. Not going to go that high, but I'll promise you that you can shoot well above 6400 and you're not going to get that much noise in the photo. So set your shutter speed to 1/125th and then feel free to bump up that ISO even up to 10,000 before you have to worry about noisy images. So let's go through how I would typically approach getting a good shot. So I'm going to grab a test shot and I'm going to adjust ISO in the shutter, make sure I don't see any weird lines or lights or flicker. I'm going to check the highlights, especially on the person's face, to make sure that they're not overexposed. All right, so I feel good about that. I'm going to view through the EVF. I'm going to move the center. I'm going to grab that quick autofocus. I'm going to recompose the shot. I'm going to take a breath, and then I'm going to shoot about 5 to 10 shots in a row. So let's take a minute. I want to show you some live action shooting that I did the other night during one of the modern rehearsals. So here's a shot of Carrie, and I've got my shutter at 1/125th, aperture's already at 2.8, so I'm going to do a test shot, and it looks pretty good at ISO 640. So first one, second shot, not super flattering, but hey, that one looks pretty good, so I'm glad I shot 3 in a row. Here's Jeff, bass player, and you can see that the autofocus wants to grab the end of the bass. So I'm going to move the lens around to try to get his face in focus. There you go. So now our face tracking autofocus picked him up, nailed it. So I'm going to look at and explore its different framing. Hey, the shot looks good, but his eyes are closed. So now I'm going to shoot a few more in a row. Hey, there we go. That's a pretty cool shot. Now let's take a look at the singers down the line. I like this framing because it gives your eye a shape to follow, and you'll probably have some audience in the foreground, hopefully, which is what we want to capture, people participating in worship. So here we are, a closer shot of Carrie again, hopefully with the shadows of those people singing in the foreground. That's what we want to capture, remember? So I caught him looking down, so another click. Hey, that one looks a lot better. Let's compose it with Emma in there too. Hey, shoot a test shot, and now, hey, I really like this framing, but it's not flattering, so we're gonna shoot a few more. Hey, that one turned out really good. I'm digging this shot because we've got multiple people to look at. I like the framing. It's kind of on the thirds of each of the shot, and it just looks really cool. Hey, let's look at some drums real quick. Here's where shutter speed can make a difference, and you can kind of play around with how that interplays with what you're trying to capture in motion. So make sure I got Justin's face is in focus. Now shoot a test shot. Hey, his right hand, that drumstick is completely gone. So let's speed up the shutter a little bit to like 250. Then you gotta make sure I compensate for the light, so I'm gonna bump that ISO up to about 2000. Do a test shot. Hey, there we go. He's in motion, but you can still see the sticks. Here's a shot of Lydia, smiling as usual. So I'll put the ISO back down to 800 because she's a little closer to the front of the stage. We're gonna do a test shot. Hey, this looks pretty good. So here's a few more. You can see while I'm trying to shoot this, the autofocus just keeps gravitating back there towards Jeff, and it's wanting to pick him up. But guess what? It is not engaged yet because I haven't hit the back focus button. I can still keep shooting Lydia crisply in focus and not have to change any settings. Tell you what, let's let it focus on him and take a shot. Hey, you know what? That looks pretty cool too. All right, so those have all been shot with the 24-70. So let's switch up to the 70-200 with the 2x extender. So if you look here at the camera settings, you'll notice that the aperture is now at 5.6. That's wide open with this setup. So we'll need to bump the ISO up a little bit to compensate because you'll see the image is a little darker. 2000 looks pretty good, so let's do some close-up shots. We're gonna focus, and then I'm gonna move and compose the shot. Hey, let's go a little bit wider. Just pretend Janet and Brad are down there singing. Hey, this looks really good. It's almost there, but nope, that's the shot. Glad I shot a few of them. And now, since focus is already still there, I'm just gonna swing over and pick up Tyler and Emma, and there we go. So to recap, shoot a test shot, look at it on the back of the screen, and make sure that your skin tone is not overexposed, because that's really what we're exposing for in these worship shots for the person on the stage. You're gonna shoot lots of images once you've got your framing, your focus, and your composition. And hey, the most important rule, have fun. Have lots of fun. Capture things that spark your creativity. Find things that are happening throughout the building and outside of the building that show people loving each other. Hey, thanks again for being a part of the tech team. Hey, if you got any questions, please feel free to email me. And I want you to know that I appreciate you using your creativity to help us tell the story of Burnt Hickory.